Joining us now is Mr. Justin Thomas Russell, Executive Director of the Global Foreign Policy Center in Washington. Good evening to you, sir. And let me here start by asking you, President Trump appears to be offering Iran a brief window of diplomacy. What's really motivating this sudden shift?
Well, good evening, Mona. What's motivating is the fact that Donald Trump has kind of painted himself into a corner. We got to go back to 2024 that Donald Trump ran on being the great deal maker, and he's touted his ability to make deals with everybody. And the bottom line here is that he through his envoy Steve Witkoff was actually working in good faith to come up with a possible diplomatic solution prior to 8 days ago when Israel decided to launch a preemptive strike. So Donald Trump's now in this corner of when originally these strikes happened 8 days ago, the message from the U.S. was we were never directly involved. That was the message from Secretary of State Rubio. And now we're seeing a completely different tune to the point where Donald Trump has put a countdown clock on the possibility of U.S. involvement in a war that, quite frankly, no one here in the United States or any of our allies want or, quite frankly, needs.
Mm-hmm. Now, what could be the strategic and the global risks of U.S. strike on Fordow facility from your point of view?
Well, the global risk, Mona, is quite simple. I mean, if the U.S. gets involved, and again, let's be clear about this. The reason why Israel wants this, the reason why Bibi Netanyahu wants to drag the U.S. in is because the U.S. has the only arsenal of weapons that can strike at the heart of the enrichment programs and the heart of the nuclear weapons programs, such as the site that you mentioned at Fedor. They need bunker busters. They need MOABs. We have them. Israel does not. So that kind of lends itself to credibility, or that kind of lends itself for the reasoning why Netanyahu and the IDF would like to see the U.S. get drawn into this. However, the big impact of this is strategically, does this really stop the Iranian nuclear program? Every nuclear scientist and every geopolitical expert on proliferation that I've talked to through our center has said that this does not offer any opportunity for them. All this does is just hesitate, or all this does is just stall the program. It does not end the program. So that's one of the things that they have to look at. The other strategic thing is what is Bibi Netanyahu's endgame? Is Bibi Netanyahu looking to do this to stop the nuclear program, to destroy the nuclear program in Iran? Or is he doing this for regime change? If he's doing it for regime change,
good point.
They're going about this the wrong way, as we've seen in the demonstrations in Tehran.
It's a good point you raised here, sir. Is Iran's leadership truly weakened enough to accept a humiliating agreement from your point of view and at this stage?
Well, you brought up, you brought up the poison pill back in the 80s, Iran-Iraq war. And the reality is, as you pointed out, rightfully so, in your opening, this is not the 80s. This is a completely different geopolitical scene that we're dealing with. Is it weakened? Perhaps. But define weakened. Have they weakened the command
define weakened?
Well, that's the thing is, and that's what everybody's trying to analyze right now, has of the protests that we've seen as late as this morning in Tehran, opposing Israel and getting behind the government and telling the government we need to stand firm. Is it, is this a matter of, are they weakened because of the fact that Israel and Mossad did strategic hits on their leadership? For example, the entire leadership of the Republican Guard Corps, is that weakened? Possibly, but then all they did was just ascend their deputies into positions of leadership. What we have weakened is the command and control. What we have weakened, when I say Israel has weakened the command and control system. Israel has made the Israeli people, the Iranian people, kind of a little bit in shock because of the attacks, but it has not deterred the uh, the support and the nationalism that we're seeing in Iran for Iran standing strong.
But here, when we speak about strikes, then if Israel was able to strike some of the very strategic points, also Iran was able to strike very, very strategic ones. And we're speaking just about today, where it hit the Beersheba facilities and the Silicon Valley of Israel. And that was a very precise hit. So exactly, this is why I was asking you to define weakened. Now,
Well,
yes,
no,
please.
go ahead. I'm sorry, Mona.
Now, how would such a deal look practically and symbolically to both sides, or what, or in which way can it be?
Well, if I can, Mona, for a second, I want to go back and touch on the point that you started the question with,
Mm.
is define weaken. Um, you know, there's some weakness on both sides. Uh, One, what we saw, you know, we talked about the weakness in Iran. What we have to look at now is the possible, breaks in the armor in Israel. When we talk about Iron Dome, we see the pictures over Tel Aviv. What we've seen the shift from targeting in Tel Aviv to places like Haifa, and they are getting through. Reports that we've seen is that they launched in this latest salvo about 25 ballistic missiles.
Mm.
If 5 got through, that is a much larger percentage than we've seen before get in through Iron Dome. Does this mean that they may have they may have just used all of their capabilities and they're going to have to rebuild and re-up those capabilities quickly? That's a big concern. Going back to your second point on the question is, what does the deal look like? Look, the deal is simple. It was simple in JCPOA, and it's not going to be any different now. Iran has to stop and swear off any possible proliferation or even the possibility of the proliferation of nuclear weapons.
Now,
Period. End sentence.
that question is again, or should again be raised. Yes, Iran has to do that, but also Israel, because both sides, they have the nuclear abilities, but nobody is addressing the nuclear capabilities of Israel as they are doing to Iran. So how do you see that, and what do you have on that?
Well, Mona, this is tough. This is a tough line that the world is walking right now regarding this. I've had a couple of colleagues in other policy areas look at it and tell me, look, the reason why there hasn't been a complete meltdown of of relations or of diplomatic ties, or a complete and total breakout of full scale war between Pakistan and India, is because of the fact that they both have nuclear capabilities and there's a mutually assured destruction capability there. I've heard some even say that maybe Iran having it wouldn't be a bad idea because, again, Israel has it, Iran has it, mutually assured destruction possibly, but then that sets a domino effect of, well, if the Iranians have it, then all of a sudden we see the Saudis going, well, we want it too. And then all of a sudden we see
Now,
the
it means
Emirates.
not just the Saudis, but all the whole region would do.
Oh,
The whole
absolutely.
region would hope for that, if this
Look,
very particular matter is not addressed. If I may ask you the last question
sure.
in this segment, if diplomacy fails, now how close are we to a full-scale war, and who would bear the costs?
Wow, that is a magnificent question, and I don't think anybody really has the answer. Um, we just saw the Security Council in emergency session, and we heard a lot of our NATO allies, including France, the UK, Germany, talk about, you know, cooler heads need to prevail here. There has to be something that says this has got to end. We got to come to a diplomatic solution.
Right.
Uh, my hope is that we can go back to the table. We can have both parties work in good faith, that both parties will be somewhat transparent about the end result. But that's the hope. Is it real? Only Tehran and Washington can answer that right
And the
now.
United States.
Yeah,
And the
and
United States.
to the last point though is who pays for it. Ultimately, the entire world pays for it. If we get into a full scale regional war, this includes the Suez Canal. This includes the Straits of Hormuz. Those are two vital economic pipelines to the entire globe, which is now interconnected economically. You shut even one of those down because of conflict. You're going to see an economic ripple effect that is going to take a long time to recover from, and that's what's got me big concern.